Hello everyone, welcome back. I am finally cutting into this paper pack and I'm so glad. I've been wanting to work with it for a while. It's called Take to the Sky and I bought this with travel layouts in mind, but I love the masculine color patterns and textures here. It's just a really cool paper pack. So you can see the maps, that's why I was thinking travel, and then of course the airplanes, making it perfect for travel. But today we are actually going to create an outdoor layout with these papers, and I think it's going to work perfectly. I have some photos of myself along with my friend Bonnie hiking around one of our favorite little high mountain lakes. So I printed these in various sizes, just some different scenery shots, and then of course us, hiking along the trail there and then trying to get some of the pretty flowers in. But if you look at the colors, you can see these are perfect. We've got the blues and greens, and my friend is even wearing that kind of copper clay color in that one pattern paper. So this is a challenge I'm doing with my crafty friends where we are working our way through this sketchbook, and this is the sketch for this month. It's pattern 17 from Close to My Heart's Make It From Your Heart Volume 6 sketchbook. We've been using this for our sketch challenge for 17 months now. There's 2 more to go, and I've really been enjoying it. So I have a couple sheets of white daisy for my base. Let me bring that layout back in. You'll notice they have some pattern paper in the center, and then a couple strips, and then lots of photos. So I am going to be changing this up just a bit. But first we need to pick our papers. These 2 right here I think are an obvious choice. We've got that beautiful sky paper, and the color of that kind of plaid paper coordinates perfectly. So what I'm thinking is they had the main pattern paper across the center and then a couple strips. So I will, of course, cut that cloud paper down if I choose to use it, but let's just bring this one in to get a visual. Sometimes you just need to place your photos on it to see how it's going to look. Now I followed the photo suggestions somewhat closely, but I have less overall photos than the sketch suggests. So there'll already be some differences in the design. But we need something to kind of support these photos. We need a horizontal line going across. So, there is green in the photos, but I want to save that map paper for some travel pictures. Let's try this gray cardstock. That looks nice with the granite in the photos. We'll use that one. I did cut those to 3 inches thick, which is a little bit thicker than the sketch. I think the sketch was 2.5. And I like it. Let's go ahead and cut these papers down and we can start putting this together. Unfortunately, this particular sketchbook is no longer available, but hopefully you can use the ideas I'm sharing today to recreate the sketch for yourself. So the center pattern paper I cut at 5 inches. So there's 5 on one side, 7 on the other. And then my cloud paper is 2 by 12. The sketch does have a few more paper strips running vertically, but I think I might simplify it and just keep it to these 2 pattern papers. So let's bring this back in, and then we need a pattern paper for these 2 photos here. So I've got 2 choices. I've selected this one is like a topography map, which I think is pretty cool for hiking. And then we have this one, which was just a small kind of like woven pattern almost. I like them both, but I think I want to go with again, we're saving that one for another project. I think I want to go with this one. So I trimmed it down and we'll place our photos. Now in the sketch, they have actually dovetailed this. You can see it on the bottom there. I will do that, but I want to wait until I bring my journaling in so I know exactly where to cut it, because I think I'll put my journaling in the center square. They had 3 photos going down that were actually 3x4s. I made mine 3x3s and then only have the 2 photos. I'm inking up the edges with gray ink to finish these off. I chose gray because there's a lot of gray tones in this paper pack. And now I want to mat these photos here. So this is Night of Navy cardstock, and I think that really makes those stand out. So I went ahead and cut down a photo mat that will house both of these photos. They do have that white border, but now I like the blue behind them. I think that really just kind of defines them. Now this stamp I'm super excited about. It's called Documenting the Day, and it's a title builder stamp. Lots of different combinations, and I am thinking we are going to use oh, what a wonderful day, and kind of stagger them just a bit. So I'm laying the stamps on my layout to help me kind of decide where to place those. I also have Frosted Forest for my embellishments. There's a lot of different combinations you can create with this stamp set. So these are the dies. You can see I've got this really lacy tree with the trunk and branches, and then you have these little pine tree overlays. I've cut these all from Mossy Meadow, and there is the option to stamp these too. So you can stamp, or there is like a die cut layer you could put this overlay on top of. All sorts of different things that it's fun because you can get a different look every time you use it. I think I want this little guy over here. I like the height, how he fills up that space there. You can see I've placed that green mossy meadow color in 3 different areas. I'm trying, different combinations with the die cut trees, but we've got this little cluster here, and then above my friend's photo, then all the way to the far right. Now this stamp set is called Take a Hike. This is an oldie but a goodie from close to my heart, and I like this little hiking shoe. It's kind of fun for hiking layouts. I have a lot of hiking photos, so I do tend to collect those. This is looking good. Let's go ahead and commit to the title. So I have Early Espresso ink. Sorry, I'm kind of off camera there. I am putting a piece of foam underneath my layout here. I've got several different pattern paper layers, which can be tricky when you're trying to stamp over that. So just by putting a piece of foam underneath, it's going to help even out those imperfections in the different paper layers and give you a nice stamp impression. I'm also stamping it on scratch paper a few times before committing to my layout. Again, sorry I'm off camera. I'm actually scrapbooking at a friend's house, so my filming, setup is just a little bit different. Give that just a second to soak in. And now for this one, I'm going to stamp the word day on a separate piece of paper and cut these out. So this is a super cool stamp documenting the day. As scrapbookers, we need titles, right? We put titles on all of our layouts. So this is a title builder stamp, and to make it even better, you can get it for free. Stampin' Up! Is having their celebration event right now going on through the end of February, so now through February 28th. And with every $60 purchase, you have the option to choose from their celebration items for free, and this is one of those options. So that was my first pick. I'm like, well, that's a good one. I would totally get that. Even if it wasn't free, I would add that to the cart. So I am really enjoying this stamp so far. So I did stamp those in Mossy Meadow, and the word day is actually one stamp, making it super easy to line up. But in this case, I'm going to cut it out. So that's, it doesn't really matter, but it is kind of handy when you're stamping it directly on your layout. So it only took me about a minute to fussy cut these because they're pretty blocky letters. So I'm just taking my time and I'm rotating the paper, which makes it much easier to fussy cut these. I have several different paper layers that I'm overlapping the title with, so cutting it out worked much better than stamping it onto the layout. So it definitely was a wonderful day. This is a high mountain lake very close to my house, and we visit this lake a lot, and there's a 4-mile loop around the lake. So my friend Bonnie and I, we had what we call a 3-sport day. This was sport 2, hiking, of our 3-sport day. And I just love the beautiful scenery around this lake. I've been hiking it since I was a little girl, and I just never get tired of this little trek. I brought in Night of Navy cardstock for these 2 photos, and I like how that ties the 2 sides together. And I want to bring in some more text. So I stamped I'd Rather Be Hiking from the same Take a Hike stamp set, cut it out with this little bracket here. And maybe if we tuck this behind here, it looks good, but I don't like all the text on one side with the title. We could put it there. I like that, but that's for my journaling. Maybe up here, not too close to the top of the page. We don't even see that cloud paper. Maybe down here. It would need to be a different color because it's blending in with the background. What if we bump this whole thing down and then placed it up top here and possibly, I just don't like it. It's not doing what I wanted it to do, so let's just set that aside for now. When you're not sure, just put it down and move on. You can always come back to it later. Now, this is the Reindeer Fun stamp set. It is a Christmas stamp, but you can use this year round. So I already used the little die cut deer on another outdoor layout, but here we're going to use this stamp set. So you have a pair of deer. You've got a larger, I don't want to say a doe and a fawn because it has antlers, but you've got a grown deer and then a little fawn, and there's deer all over this area. So I thought it was the perfect little embellishment for this hiking page. Even though there's no deer in the photo, it just kind of helps set the scene. So I'm inking this up in a alcohol marker friendly ink because we are going to color this in. So I've stamped that. You do want to give it just a little bit to dry. And now I have Pecan Pie Stampin' Blends, the light and dark, and then also Crumb Cake, just for a little variation between the two deer. So I'm starting in the tiny areas with the bullet tip, and I'm adding the darker color where you would have shadows. So on the underside of the legs, on the lower half of the body, and now we can switch to the brush tip and color in the larger portions of the deer. So this does wick just a little bit, so I find it helpful to hold back from the edges of the image just a bit. That way it doesn't bleed outside of the lines. I've switched to Crumb Cake just to add a little bit of a different color to the belly, and I'll color in the fawn with Crumb Cake too, just so they're different and not the exact same color. I find I'm able to use my Christmas theme stamps quite a bit. You'll find like pine cones or little sprigs, birds, things like that work really well for outdoor type pages. So don't forget to check your Christmas stamp supply and put those images to work year round. So let's scoot this down so these are kind of connected, like we're creating a little scene here. I'm anchoring the little deer on the bottom of that gray piece, and I went ahead and printed out my journaling to fit this space here. We can go ahead and put the dovetail feature in this piece. I adhered those down. I'm trimming off about 1/2 inch, and because it still was full 12 inches, I'm using the measurements on my Versamat to find center. We'll just snip up. I don't want very steep angles, so I just snipped up a little bit, maybe 1/2 inch, and then you just cut in from the corner and then the opposite side until you meet in the middle. I apologize, I'm off camera there. I took a little break and went through my stamp collection to see what else I could embellish with. And I, of course, found my textured timber log. And then this, I created a little circle. It says, "I'd hike that." And I stamped that on the copper clay cardstock. So I thought maybe down here, I don't like that. Maybe up here. It's kind of cute. I like how it brings the copper clay to the outside of the edge there. And then maybe we can use some of our little tree snaps. So unfortunately, the textured timber is no longer available, but I know many of you added it to your collection. It's such a cool little log round feature for layering. And I think we have too much green going on. I want more height in this area, so I keep trying to switch it to this taller tree. Plus, at this particular lake, there's a mix of pine trees and like oak trees, and I thought it was neat to have that on the layout and the embellishments. So maybe we'll just go with those two. Less is more. So you might be wondering what our other sports were on our 3-sport day. We started the day out with a bike ride. And then we came to this little lake and we did a 4-mile hike. And then afterwards, we spent an hour or so paddleboarding on the lake. It was a really fun day. We were pretty tired by the time we were done, but it was just such a beautiful day. We were happy to be outside doing all sorts of activities. It's like we couldn't decide what we wanted to do, so we did it all. These are little wooden arrows from my stash. Actually, I forgot mine at home, and I'm scrapbooking with my sister-in-law, so they're from her stash, but we have a lot of the same supplies. So I was like, "Hey, do you have any of those little wooden arrows?" And she's like, "Yep." So it was perfect. And I'm just adding a few of these to the layout. Arrows are fun because they kind of lead your eye, and I like the wooden texture. So I just added 3 of those, kind of anchored to the other embellishment areas. Maybe one there? No, let's just stop with 3. Now I'm going to add a little bit of splatter. We've got a lot of white space and I just wanted a little something more in that area. So on my all-purpose mat, I'm adding some espresso ink and then I'll drip some water in it. So I've got a little paintbrush here. I'm adding some tap water, mixing it up just to kind of dilute that so it'll splatter a little bit better. If you have the re-inkers, you could use that as well, but this works perfectly. So I'm tapping it now with a marker and we're just adding a little splatter. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it is there and I think it does add a lot of interest to that otherwise open white space. So let's bump my little trees. I don't know why I haven't glued those down yet. I just need to commit and do that because I like them up there. Let's add a little bit to the bottom section and then I will add some to the far right as well. I am a-okay with white space on a layout, but sometimes if you just feel like it needs a little something, splatter is a great go-to method to add just a subtle little detail or even background stamping. So these are some really cool, beautiful dots in natural colors here. So I'm going to use my little pickup tool and just add some of these copper clay colored ones around my embellishments here. So I tend to do a cluster of 3. That always works for me. And I was struggling with this, so I sped it up quite a bit. It took me like 3 minutes to place the dots. I don't know what was going on, but I just kept moving around. I didn't like it, but we finally settled on some dot locations that made me happy. My journaling talks about where we were and how my friend Bonnie and I were, on sport 2 of our 3-sport day, and just how much I love this little loop around the lake and how grateful I am to have a friend to adventure with. Let's go ahead and bring back in the original sketch design. So you can see there's similarities, but I have one less photo on the left side, more embellishments in place of the photo, and then less pattern papers, but bigger, and then matted the photo. They don't have any photo mats, and I really like my photos matted. I just think it makes them stand out a little bit better. On this side, my 2 photos are bigger, and I moved my journaling to the strip, changed those to 3x3s instead of the 3x4s you see there. And I like how you can see more of that pattern paper. And then, of course, I matted this one as well. Sketches are a great jumping off point. They get you going and you can always adapt to make them work for your photos. And this one, unfortunately, is no longer available. But if you're looking for sketchbooks, I have the Creative Design Team sketchbooks listed in the description box below. And don't forget to check out what my crafty friends are doing with this particular layout. It's fun to see the same sketch used in different ways. You can find those videos in this playlist right here. Everything I used to create this layout can be found in the description box below the video. And I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I'll see you very soon here on YouTube. Bye.